Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason the Speed Force Inman. Welcome to your Mind University, because we are Geek History Lesson, the podcast where we take one character from pop culture and we teach you all about it in an hour. And at any point during this podcast, if you're like, hey, that didn't sound right, hey, that sounded wrong, hey, I just like your voice, go find us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin. Ashley's on Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. But enough about tweets. We're here to talk about Kid Flash, because he's all over The Flash Season 3.
Yes, and before we get started, this episode was requested by many people.
Oh, man.
And I just want to shout them out because they're all amazing. Willie Yip, the Tamar, Alan Menendez, Axe Ken, Alexis N. Bowen, and Eldon Lashley. I'm sorry if I read your username wrong, but I love you for requesting Wally West.
Yeah.
So let's move right into the first part of our podcast, which is the 10-cent origin.
Yes, that's right. The 10-cent origin is where we are going to give you the basic conceits and constructs, basically a Cliff Notes list of what you need to know about Wally West in case you go to a super cool cocktail party in the middle of Central City and some guy with a bow tie comes on here and he's like, yo, you know Wally West? And you're like, hell yeah, I listen to Geek History Lesson.
Exactly. So Wally Rudolph West, a.k.a.
Wow, what a name.
I know. Wallace Rudolph West, a.k.a. Kid Flash, a.k.a. The Flash, is a DC Comics character. He is what is known as a speedster. If you don't know what that is, more on that later.
They run fast.
Created by John Broome and Carmine Infantino, both very legendary creators, who first appeared in the Flash number 110, published in DC of 1959.
Ooh.
December of 1959. He's an old man. And his partnerships and team affiliations include Barry Allen, The Flash, Bart Allen, Kid Flash, Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, Nightwing, Teen Titans, Justice League, and The Titans. And his abilities include infinite super speed, superhuman agility and stamina, the ability to vibrate body parts and phase through matter, super strength, supercharged brain activity, time travel. He can create a vortex and increase his perceptions. And he is currently being played by the awesome Keenan Lonsdale on the CW television show The Flash.
I believe also he was part of the Justice League Elite, but that was only around for like 12 issues, so no worries.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So let's go right into our meet cute part of the podcast.
Yes, meet cute is where we meet and cuted these characters, because it's a term for romantic comedies about how you first discovered this person. Ashley, how did you first meet Wally West?
Unsurprisingly, in the Justice League cartoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was never a super speedster fan, but I always really liked Wally because I thought he was like super funny, and he is obviously the person in the Flash costume in the Justice League cartoon from the 2000s.
Nice.
So yeah, how about you? Where did you first meet him?
Well, I randomly met the Flash in some comics in the mid-90s. It was Wally West, but at the time I didn't know it was Wally West, and I didn't really consciously become aware of who Wally West was until JLA number 1 by Grant Morrison, because
good book.
Wally West is the Flash on that team, and he reveals that he had an Uncle Barry. He talks a lot about flashbacks, and also there's a big thing.
Flashbacks.
Yeah, he talks about my Uncle Barry has all these flashbacks in the the 4th or 5th issue, somewhere in there. But he also has a cantankerous relationship with Green Lantern Kyle Rayner at the time, which I think provides for one of the best relationships in that book.
Agreed, definitely.
All right, cool. So let's move on into History 101, where Ashley, with the help of all the people that suggest this lesson, is going to tell you all the stuff you need to know about Wally West, Kid Flash, a.k.a. Kid Flash again.
Yeah, for real. Little caveat before we start. Wally West has been around for a long time.
Woo. He's
been through many reboots, so this lesson is probably going to be one of our longer ones.
Okay.
And I've done my very best to stitch the continuity together for you. So, Wally Rudolph West was born to Rudolph and Mary West in Blue Valley, Nebraska. Fun fact, not a real place. As a boy, Wally would often daydream, most notably about being the Flash. It was all he wanted.
Yeah.
He idolized the Flash so much that he was even the president and sole member of the Blue Valley Flash fan club. And I can't believe that no one has made that a t-shirt. Please get on that. His parents thought he was setting himself up for failure by setting this bar so high, and they did their best to dampen what they believed to be unrealistic expectations of becoming the Flash, often rather harshly. They would basically tell him, like,
Wally's dad is not a nice dude.
That's dumb, don't do that. But it's also tough to tell if that was, like, I don't know, the way people acted in the 60s, as opposed to by contemporary standards. But yeah, well, like, Mr. Rudolph West is not a super friendly guy. At a family reunion hosted by the Wests, Wally accidentally spilled some soda all over himself and incited his father to yell at him for being so careless, and he was sent to his room in tears. Although once there, a familiar-looking man, who he thought was his uncle, came in and started talking to him. The man encouraged Wally not to give up on his dreams and gave him the confidence that he would reflect back on this moment for years to come and realize that this was when he changed his life. Remember this, more on this later. So one summer...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. One summer when Wally was 10 years old, he went to Central City. To stay with his aunt Iris West, whom he called his best friend. And at the time, Iris was going out with police scientist Barry Allen, who was, quote, friends with the Flash.
Oh, of course it was.
By which we, of course, mean that he was the Flash.
Oh,
so
is that what that means?
That's what that means.
All right. Somebody says they're friends with somebody, that means that they're actually... They are that person.
So I am Jason Inman, as it turns out.
Wow. Blows my mind.
There you go. So Barry introduced Wally to his idol, the Flash. That was so nice of Barry to do that.
Wow, man, he's got the hookups.
I know. He's so talented. In the back room of Barry's apartment, there was a lab, because that's what you do.
Yep.
And Wally asked the Flash all sorts of questions, and he asked the Flash how he got his powers. And it turns out that Flash had set up these chemical cabinet that had been struck by lightning, and that's how he was created. However, it just so happened that the weather was particularly stormy that day, and when the lightning and outside the lightning struck another cabinet full of chemicals inside Barry's lab, bathing Wally in the same chemicals that created the Flash in the first place instead of giving them horrible cancer.
Welcome to the Silver Age, my friends.
It's real convenient, but just go with it. So Flash told Wally that he had to keep this a secret, even from his aunt Iris, because he's going to have the Speed Force now and be a superhero. But he even gives Wally a Flash costume that is already specially tailored to his size.
And is an exact duplicate of Barry's.
Right. And,
it's not yellow,
and he
it's
tells
red.
him that he's going to become Kid Flash. So he's like, shut up. Don't tell anyone he got struck by lightning, especially not your aunt. You're my sidekick now. Here's a creepy costume that I had tailored to your body size.
Listen, Wally.
Yeah?
I'm the Flash.
Oh, cool, Flash.
And you're going to be my sidekick.
Cool. Super.
Yeah, do what I say.
Yeah.
Pick up my dry cleaning.
Okay.
Don't tell Iris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High five.
All right, let's zoom.
That's Foley work.
Let's zoom out of here.
Yeah, right. So the Flash taught Wally everything that he needed to know about how to use the speed to his advantage, and about who the rogues in their gallery were, and how to be basically a speedster. And the very next day, after conquering a crippling fear of fire, Wally apprehended his very first criminal, Mr. Element.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of Mr. Element, don't worry about it. He had attacked the art museum, because it's the Silver Age, transmuting many pieces of art into shapeless forms and causing them to attack people.
Mm-hmm.
Element stole the Giardi atom, which is an atomic model crafted from gold and jewels. It's like, oh, that's pretty. And Kid Flash followed Element to the home of Ward Wellington Weaver, owner of another Girardi atom, where he defeated the villain and turned him into the police and saved the day.
That's right.
That's Kid Flash's first adventure.
Yay.
So at the time, of course, Wally was still in high school, but he was also a member of a fraternity called Eta Pi, along with his very good friend, Tommy Elkin. And Eta Pi provided a lot of social opportunities for Wally to have to run away from to go into his superheroing.
Of course it did.
But the next summer, Barry told Wally his secret identity, because he was like, well, we've been at it for a year, so you could finally learn that I'm Barry Allen.
He was a long time without telling Wally his real name.
It was weird. It was kind of like the Cassandra Cain and Batman. Like, he didn't reveal that he was Bruce Wayne for quite a while. And of course, this surprised Wally, who'd been living in Eta Pi for the whole year, who had always thought that Barry was actually, like, kind of boring.
He's a dunce.
Because his civilian identity is boring. He does a
Yep.
great job at playing against the Flash identity. And again, lightning struck, causing a matter transforming machine to transform Wally's costume into a newer, predominantly yellow costume.
That was convenient.
Right, just like there's always been struck by lightning. And the design of which Barry had actually been toying with in the back of his mind to make the two heroes more visually distinct. So it's just really lucky that happened. Wally also joined the Teen Titans during this time. Now, we are only going to talk about the Teen Titans very, very briefly throughout the rest of the history lesson as it comes up. We did a full 2-part lesson on the Teen Titans taught by me that you can go listen to if you want some of the specifics of this.
That's right.
He also began to take classes at Taggart University with the hopes of eventually getting a doctorate in physics. Now, Jason, do I know
what physics are?
Right, exactly. During the same time, which university did his Teen Titans teammate Dick Grayson go to?
Damn
Didn't know you were going to get some Nightwing trivia.
Oh, I know that. Gotham State.
Hudson University.
Hudson. Oh,
Tim gets accepted to Gotham
Hudson.
State.
Oh, where does Wally go?
Wally goes to Taggart, Taggert.
Nobody goes to Ivy College?
Taggart University.
Where Ray Palmer works? All right.
No one likes Ray Palmer.
Right.
I don't know.
Hudson University.
Yeah. So as Barry's sidekick, Wally also got to meet Hal Jordan, who was then Green Lantern of Earth. And he became Hal's friend because Hal and Barry were good friends. So that's, the next logical step. And Wally would also go on to befriend another Green Lantern in another incarnation of the Justice League that Jason alluded to at the beginning of the lesson that we'll talk more about in a little bit. Because Wally had been struck by lightning and affected by the charged chemicals when he was a child, rather than as a full-grown man, it started to affect his body in a different way than it did Barry. And Wally was actually diagnosed with cancer, with his speed powers effectively killing him.
This is quite cruel.
It's a tough storyline, and the Teen Titans run deals a lot with this. It's very sad. And basically, the faster he goes and the more superheroic he is, the quicker he'll die. Mm-hmm. Although he was able to run through the crippling pain, which he called the same as hitting a wall. The summer he got his powers. When adolescence hit, he came back vengefully, effectively propelling Wally to quit his superhero career for a little bit. And then we get to a big, important DC Comics event known as Crisis on Infinite Earths. Jason, can you tell us really quickly Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Basically, this character called the Anti-Monitor was like, I don't like that there are all these Earths out there. Infinite. I only want one. So he destroys the multiverse. And after the event, there's only one Earth.
Right. And we usually gloss over Crisis on Infinite Earths just like that.
Yep.
But the thing is it's actually really important to the Flashes, so we're going to talk about it here today. Oh,
man. Here we go. Dive deep, kids. Get your rain baskets.
Yeah, put your flippers on. So during the Crisis on Infinite Earths, after Barry Allen sacrificed his life to destroy the Anti-Monitor's antimatter cannon, an antimatter ray fired by the Anti-Monitor hit Wally full force. Hits him right in the chest. It's really bad. But the important thing about this is that it made Wally only able to run at the speed of sound. It made him slower.
Oh, so he's now at the same speed as Jay Garrick.
Exactly. But it also cured his cancer, and the storyline never comes back again.
Hot dog.
So Wally's pretty lucky. Wally then took Barry's uniform and declared himself the Flash, just until Barry returned, though. Like, he wasn't going to keep it forever, but he was going to keep the suit warm.
That's in one of the final scenes of Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Wally is like, I'm the Flash now.
It's very important. And it's a nice moment for Wally, too, I think. He's one of the first legacy characters that you actually get to see taking on the mantle of the grown-up hero?
Yeah.
The real hero?
Yep, 100%.
No one else shared Wally's feeling that Barry was still alive, because we kind of had a Tim Drake thing going on where he was like, no, Barry's alive. I'm just keeping the suit warm. And they also didn't appreciate Wally's attempts at filling Barry's boots because he wasn't very good at it in the beginning. He was actually publicly embarrassed in a fight with Dr. Alchemy.
Oh, I remember that fight.
Yeah, and Green Lantern declared that he would be the protector of Central City because he didn't think the Flash could handle it. So for about a week, Wally donned his Kid Flash costume again, like to punish himself. However, during his very next fight with Dr. Alchemy, it finally dawned on him that Barry would not be coming back. He was able to break the sound barrier once again, and he saved Green Lantern and Jay Garrick from Dr. Alchemy. And this was the first time that anyone actually took Wally seriously as the Flash. There was a big proving ground.
Take that, zip, 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 zoom.
Is that how it went?
That's Wally.
I do think it's interesting, though, and I just want to point out that at this time, we do have Hal Jordan, who we previously mentioned it's a big deal that he becomes friends with Wally.
Yeah.
Instead of supporting him, he's like, you know what, kid? I don't know if you got hold on this. I'm going to take over
Well, you
now.
have to. That's an interesting point because Hal and Barry in comic books continuity are best friends.
They are. They're
100%
buds.
best friends. So I actually kind of appreciate that Hal was like looking in on Wally.
You don't think that he should have supported Wally more than being like, you sucked,
Hal
I'm
Jordan
the hero now?
is a jerk.
I know he's a jerk.
Hal Jordan's a jerk, and Hal Jordan's the kind of guy that like he doesn't ever give you a chance to do anything. He's just like, no, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm. But I kind of like that Wally saves him, but he also gets to save Jay Garrick because Jay Garrick is the original Flash. So if you can save him, you must know what you're doing, right?
Sure.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I said, it was the first time that anyone took Wally seriously as the Flash, and there's kind of no doubt from here on out whether or not he is deserving of the mantle, which is nice.
Except for himself.
Except Wally does have a lot of self-doubt because Barry Allen is canonized by all the characters around him and in his own memory as being just this epic hero.
Well, he's the man who saved the world.
Right.
He's the man who saved the multiverse.
How do you beat that?
How do you ever live up to that legacy?
But I think it's interesting that even though Wally is plagued by self-doubt, like you mentioned, that, Batman's fine with it, Superman's fine with it, everyone else becomes very supportive from this point.
It takes Wally about 10 years, I would say, in our time.
In publication time?
In publication time to kind of accept him as the Flash. It takes about a decade.
Yeah, and then Barry comes back and ruins everything.
No, Barry, that's even further. Like, Barry doesn't show up for another 10 years.
No, I know, but I mean, like, Wally, gets over it. He's like, I'm a great Flash, and then Barry Allen is going to come back. That's not a spoiler for something that happened many, many years ago. So, after finally accepting that Barry was dead, Wally still had to overcome his angry feelings of being abandoned and forced into the role that he did not feel ready for. A little bit about what we just talked about. And this is right around the same time in the Teen Titans continuity that Raven suffered a lot of pain at the hands of Brother Blood. Oh. And I just want to bring this up because canonically, Wally has a big crush on Raven, even though it is true, even though nothing ever comes of that. We talked a little bit about it in a Teen Titans episode. So for him, this is a really trying time. So not only is he trying to accept that, like, I'm a grown-up now, I'm the Flash, and, like, that's really hard, but this girl that he really likes and he's had a crush on for, like, at least 5 years, I was going through a tough time, and he can't help her because, like, literally no one can help Raven. So he reacts to all of this pressure the way a lot of people do by acting rude and childish.
That sounds about right.
Boo. And this mental anguish is later revealed to be what is, quote, blocking Wally's ability to go faster.
I remember this storyline as well.
Because with a lot of speedsters, you have to figure out why they can't run fast in order to create drama. So even though Wally is able to break the sound barrier again, he kind of plateaus, and everyone's very concerned about why he's not going any faster. And it's because he's kind of like being a butthead and not dealing with his feelings super well. Right after this, Wally gets really, really lucky, though. The skies open up, and they rain down money on Wally West.
What?
He wins $6.5 million in the lottery.
That is a huge haul in the lottery, and that doesn't happen often. It's not usually often that the lottery goes above $1 million.
No, and when it is, it's a big deal. I would love, if anyone wants to give me $6.5 million, I will take it and run.
And he has super speed?
Yeah.
That son of a
And he's good looking, and this isn't even the modern age, so the dollar's going further.
Well, I don't know about that.
You don't think Wally West is good looking? Let's table this. We'll talk about this later. Wally West is good looking. He wins $6.5 million in the lottery. He wins a lot of money. He's able to leave his small apartment in Brooklyn, which now probably would have cost about $1 million, and buy a mansion on Long Island. So he buys a giant house because that's responsible. During this time, Wally invited several different girlfriends and even at one point his mother to come and live with him in hilarious sitcom-esque situations.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a silly beat plot to a lot of his superhero adventures at the time. But Wally eventually lost all of his money in the stock market, which is a bummer. And he had to move back into a new, smaller apartment. But he gets a new girlfriend, so it's all okay. Wally's kind of a ladies' man.
Wally is a total ladies' man.
Which means that, according to Jason, he's probably a man-bo.
He is.
Then the Durlans invade Earth. If you don't know who the Durlans are, don't worry about it. I got your back. The Durlans are an alien race of shape-shifting beings from the planet Durla. And they decide to attack Earth. Wally winds up defending Cuba until the Durlans set off a gene bomb and he loses his speed for a short time.
Oh, this is during the event Invasion.
Yes, which we recently saw inspire a big television crossover.
Yeah, CW crossover, yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about another planet really quick, and that planet is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter's important because Jason and I, the both of us, have created a new comic book hero named Jupiter Jet. Now, Jupiter Jet is the Rocketeer meets the Red Panda adventure starring a teenage girl in a cool jetpack as she fights mysteries and ray guns and big dudes with glowing eyes. Now, to make this comic happen and to make it as absolutely as amazing as possible, we are kickstarting Jupiter Jet, and you can find it at jupiterjetcomic.com. Like Geek History Lesson, Jason and I made this together, so we really want to share it with you because you are already amazing supporters of ours. You can help us fund our dream and get yourself something awesome for your trouble, like... what about a 30-minute Skype call with both Professor Jason and Professor Ashley?
And at first you may be like, well, why would I want that? But let me put it up this way. Ashley and I have been doing this podcast for about 3 years now. We've got a pretty sizable audience. We've also been doing YouTube videos. I produce for Rhett and Link, Honest Trailers, Collider, did stuff like that. If you are one of those people be like, I've always wanted to start a podcast or I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel, that's the perfect time to just spend 30 minutes with us and we'll give you advice.
We'll share our secrets because they're not that secret.
They're not that secret. And sometimes it can be easily explained. So that's like, I think, a great value. Like if you've ever been thought about that, like we will totally like tell you what you should do.
And we're also nice, open people, and we'll answer...
Or we'll talk about Batman for 30
answer your
minutes.
questions.
I don't care.
We'll talk about whatever you want for 30 whole minutes, 1/2 an hour. You know what else we have?
I don't know.
You can get a copy of the Jupiter Jet graphic novel along with an exclusive Nicola Scott print. Nicola Scott...
That name sounds familiar.
Current Wonder Woman artist. Previous Earth 2 artist.
Oh, man.
Current Black Magic artist. Amazingly talented lady artist who is drawing an amazing print for you all. You can get that.
And she's an Aussie.
And she's an Aussie. Get a little piece of Australian art for your home. There's also a reward level where Jason and I will follow you on Twitter.
That's
so
right.
we can be all up in your digital life. So look out for all of those. Like I said, you can get all of this and more at jupiterjetcomic.com. But that's not it, guys. We have a special reward just for all of you amazing Mind University students who are here at Geek History Lesson. Go to our Kickstarter, donate $5, email Jupiter...
At least $5.
At least $5.
You can donate more than that.
That's true. We're open to that. Email jupiterjetcomic@gmail.com with the subject lesson, Geek History Lesson. Of course, a screenshot to prove that you did what you said you did. And we will send you a Geek History Lesson magnet that I made with my own 2 hands. Maybe some comics from a personal collection and probably a really cool handwritten note.
That's right. We push this a lot, but like this comic book...
It means a lot to us.
It means a lot to us. We've had this idea for a long time, and now we can finally make it real through Action Lab and through Kickstarter. But we need Kickstarter to do it because you have to pay a comic book artist a living wage
if you want a great product.
If you want a really cool looking comic book. So this means a lot to us. You can buy a copy of the book for $30. Like that is the fair price. And especially when you know like where the money's going to, that's a big deal. I do that on Kickstarter all the time. Like if I like this book, I like to fund it simply for the fact that I'm like, I know that that's somebody that's like, I wanted to make this book for so long.
And you're helping them create stuff in the future as well.
That's right. jupiterjetcomic.com. Thank you guys so much for everybody that's donated over there on Kickstarter already.
And we love you and you're amazing. But let's speed back through the Speed Force. Get some more Wally West in our lives.
He's poor, the stock market killed him, and he's in a small apartment.
Right, and he doesn't have his speed to his fullest abilities right now. But don't worry, friends, because Wally's going to get his full speed back.
That's good.
See, what happened was his aura, because this is pre-Speed Force,
What?
Was feeding directly off his body, affecting his brain and body in negative ways. But he could run faster than he'd ever read before, and he burns a really deep trench across North America that stretches from New York to New Mexico because he's running so fast and kind of destroying his body at the same time. He also grew long spines all over his body, and he stalked around a city called Swainsville, New Mexico, confused and looking for food and not sure what's going on, and contributing to citizens' belief in a local myth, the Porcupine Man. This is really silly, guys. It's really silly, but I want to mention it because it's a little bit important. This is the first time that Wally West meets Linda Park. Jason, can you give us a real quick synopsis of who Linda Park is?
Linda Park will become the wife, the mother, and the mother of Wally's children, and his lightning rod the love of his life.
Yes. And Linda Park is also kind of a Lois Lane type. She's a spunky, plucky reporter. She's really pretty.
She's a TV reporter, though.
She is. She's an on-air personality, as opposed to Lois is definitely like a more of the intellectual journalist type. And Linda is not about to let anyone stand in her way either. Like, she winds up needing rescuing a lot because she's not superpowered herself, but she doesn't let anyone think they have the upper hand on her.
Nope.
So during this Porcupine Man incident is the first time that Linda shows up to report on what's going on. It all goes away. Don't worry about it. Wally decides that, well, I was a porcupine once, but now I'm not, and I am not dying anymore, and I can run really fast, so I'm going to move to Keystone City.
Keystone City.
And Keystone City is where most people think of as being the home of the Flash or Central City.
Well, let's clarify this a minute, because Crisis on Infinite Earths does do an interesting thing to Central City, Keystone City. Mm-hmm. Keystone City is the home to Jay Garrick the Flash.
Yes.
Then when Barry Allen shows up, he is in Central City. Okay? These cities are not by each other. Keystone City's on Earth 2, whatever.
Yes.
After Crisis on Infinite Earths, they do this really cool thing that I actually really like. Mm-hmm. They make Keystone and Central City the same city, and they're separated by a river.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And I like that a lot, too, because I've always supposed, and a lot of people have as well, that Central City is kind of based on Kansas City, which is also divided by a river.
I also like this idea, and I really hope they do it in the Flash television show. I hope Wally moves to Keystone City, when he starts to carve his identity out a little more when he moves out of the West.
Well, they've mentioned Keystone several times in the TV show, and it seems like it's a weird suburb of Central City.
It does. It seems a little bit like Bloodhaven,
but it seems
but less evil.
But it seems like far away.
It does.
Yeah.
But you know what? Things change on TV all the time.
That, by the way, is one of the coolest post-crisis changes is the idea of the Twin Cities.
I agree. So Wally moves to Keystone City, and he moves there because Joan Garrick, wife of Jay Garrick, tells him it's a really nice place to live. So why not?
Thanks, Ma.
Yeah. Once there, Wally and Linda start dating. How great is that?
That's cool.
Shortly after this, Barry Allen seemingly returned from the dead. Important word, seemingly.
Wait, what?
But Barry was behaving very strangely, and eventually, when they were superheroing together, he even left Wally alone to die.
That's not cool, man.
At this point, Wally's got some real suspicions about whether or not...
That is not cool, man.
This is his beloved Uncle Barry.
Okay.
Wally was right, of course, and soon learned that Barry had been impersonated by Eobard Thawne, better known as Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash.
That's right.
And with the help of Jay Garrick, Johnny Quick, and Max Mercury, Zoom was defeated. Jay Garrick, Johnny Quick and Max Mercury, for the purposes of this lesson, are other speedsters.
They're golden age speedsters.
They are. You can request lessons on them if you would like to.
Jesse Quick, real quick, was a member of the JSA. Johnny Quick, excuse me. Johnny Quick was a member of the JSA. Max Mercury is this long legacy. Think about him as like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Speed Force.
Ooh, that's great. Yep. I'm going to remember that.
Yep.
So the next cool thing that happens with Wally West is meeting Bart Allen.
Wait, who's Bart?
Yay.
Bart Allen.
Actually, I was just going to say, Jason, do you know who Bart Allen is?
I do. Bart Allen is actually the grandson of Barry Allen from the future, and he's also a speedster. I'm not certain the year in the future that he's from. I believe it's the 31st century.
It is the 31st century. Okay, but I don't think, there might be a date. I don't think there's a specific date.
So he's from the same century as the Legion of Superheroes.
Exactly.
And he is also a speedster. He's directly related to Barry.
He's my favorite speedster in the whole universe. So Iris West was revealed to be alive because when Barry died, they kind of shunted Iris off at the same time because there wasn't a lot left.
She also got real old.
She did get really old.
They made her a gray-haired lady.
Yes. And soon she returned from the future along with Bart Allen.
Yep.
So now she's here and she's sort of younger again. So Wally could help him control his speed because Bart is like running out of control and he's crazy and he's not focused, so he needs help. Following extensive training with both Wally and with Jay Garrick, there's a lot more with Jay Garrick actually, Bart took up the speedster gig as a costumed hero, Impulse! Yay! With cool goggles. And then he follows in Wally's footsteps and joins the Teen Titans team of the time, which I think is really, really cool. And he will eventually go on to be Kid Flash for a minute as well. Then we come to
And the Flash for a minute as well.
For like 2 whole seconds. Yeah, I like him as Flash. Then we come to an event called 0 Hour. Jason, real quick, can you tell us what 0 hour is?
Well, there was an hour and it turned 0. 0 hour.
I'm going to say that next time and you're going to get so mad.
Green Lantern Hal Jordan at the time had gone all crazy cuckoo pants because his home city, Coast City, had blown up by Cyborg Superman. So he grabbed all the power of the Green Lanterns and was like, I'm going to remake the entire universe in my image and bring back Coast City. That's 0 hour.
Ha ha, ha ha ha. So, yes, when Hal Jordan seemingly went mad after the destruction of his former home, Coast City, and became Parallax, he was replaced as Green Lantern by Kyle Rayner. Oh, we love Kyle Rayner.
We've also done a Geek History lesson on Kyle Rayner. My favorite is of Lanterns.
Taught by you, I believe.
Yes.
Who took his place in the Justice League as America, and the two, Wally and Kyle, became best buddies, but not after a little bit of conflict.
I'm going to back you up there.
Yeah.
It's not the Justice League of America. This is...
the JLA.
The JLA.
I'm sorry.
The JLA. You don't say those words.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can say them later when they reboot it, but it's JLA.
I didn't mean to. They do become best buddies, and I just want to say there's a really funny scene where they play Rock'em Sock'em Robots together.
And talk about Superman's haircut.
So I would really recommend checking out. The JLA is not in my recommended reading. But it's definitely worth it. It has been in the past.
I'm going to make a metaphor here or an analogy.
Okay.
And I forgot which one's which is, I'm tired. Sorry. The Green Lantern Kyle Rayner and Wally West Flash relationship in JLA is like Julian Bashir and Miles O'Brien in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
That's a perfect comparison.
If you've ever seen that, because they start out the 40 issues of Grant Morrison's run hating each other. They don't like each other. And then by the end of the 40 issues, they are as close of friends like Hal Jordan and Barry were.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because Wally hates Kyle.
He's Kyle's a schmuck.
Does not like Kyle at all, which is so funny because Wally was in Kyle's place.
Not that long ago.
Not
I mean,
that long
in the
ago.
history of the stories, not that long
And
ago.
his Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, was giving him as much shade as he's given Kyle.
Exactly.
So you're just like,
that's why I wanted to focus on it.
Exactly. So like, dude, come on, remember.
So there's some nice mirror plots going on here. Not long after this, Wally was seemingly killed. See, seemingly is an adjective we use a lot.
Okay.
While trying to help Rip Hunter, who you may know, and Wave Rider save the 64th century, but he was just flung back in time, so don't worry about it. The nice thing about this is we get a really cute retcon, and I never thought I would use the phrase cute retcon, but here we have arrived at it. So Wally gets flung back in time to the West family reunion, and it is revealed that he was the uncle that gave his past self the pep talk that allowed him the confidence to become Kid Flash.
Now, I am going to say, you probably know this, but it's
Go for it.
It's also for our listeners. Do you know what issue of The Flash that takes place in?
No.
The Flash number 0, the 0 hour tie-in issue.
Oh, there you go.
Is when that happens. Also, that is one of, in my opinion, one of the greatest issues of The Flash of all time. Written by Mark Waid, art by Mike Wieringo.
Oh, well, Mike Wieringo, you can't go wrong.
But that is The Flash 0. It is, I without a doubt, I think one of the greatest issues of The Flash ever.
Yeah, not even just Wally West, The Flash.
The Flash.
I would agree. During this time, Wally had a vision of Linda dying at the hands of Cobra, who's a bad guy. And when he tried to talk him out, and when he tried to take him out, he's trying to take out Cobra, Bart Allen, Impulse, ruined his plans and caused an accident that made Wally start to transform into a being of pure energy. All you need to know about Cobra is he's a guy who looks like a snake.
He's like a snake cult guy.
Yeah. This would be an ongoing problem for Wally for a little bit. He kept turning into pure energy, and he couldn't run that fast because then he would be a being of pure energy and be part of the Speed Force, and who knew what was happening?
Let's also point out, too, that there's an interesting thing of note that Wally West is the Flash that discovers the Speed Force.
Yes.
Not Barry.
No.
It's Wally West.
It is. It is a rather modern idea.
Well, it was, yes, the Speed Force, the idea of the Speed Force was invented by Mark Waid in the 90s during his amazing, the greatest Flash run of all time.
Yes, which, don't worry, will be in the recommended reading. So Wally's got this problem. He's turning into pure energy. Who's he gonna go to for help but Jesse Quick? Yay! Jesse Quick, you will also know from the Flash television show. She's a lady speedster. And he goes to her. She can't super help him with his problem. So he's like, Jesse, quick, if anything happens to me and I become a being of pure energy and absorbed by the Speed Force, will you take up the mantle of the Flash?
And she gets a really cool looking little Flash costume.
She gets an amazing Flash costume. But it's actually he doesn't really mean it. It's a trick because he wants Bart to pull up his bootstraps, and he actually makes Bart the next in line to inherit the Flash title. However, the tragedy was not completely averted, and Wally was forced to enter the Speed Force, where he traded Linda's fate for what he thought would be his. Dun, dun, dun. And this trip beyond the light gave Wally the power to tap directly into the Speed Force itself, which granted new abilities, which consisted of projecting the Speed Force into objects, throwing lightning, and many others.
Yeah, and also manipulating, absorbing, and granting super speed to other people.
Which
was an ability the Flash had never had before. Also, there's a fun fact. Wally West, in terms of all this Speed Force stuff, the very first Flash to travel faster than the speed of light.
Also, this effectively makes him, to date, the most powerful Flash of all time.
I think Barry has now done that as well, but
Wally did it first.
If you think about the way Wally did it first, then yeah, you could make the argument that Wally is the fastest Flash of all time.
Mm-hmm. So then he went on to battle Savitar. Flash TV show fans will recognize this name. Savitar siphons energy from the Speed Force and kept other speedsters from tapping into it, which is a very bad idea. Savitar wants to be the fastest man alive. He's named after a Hindu god. That's kind of all that you know about him.
Or he is the Hindu god. It's never quite revealed.
Depending on how you want to read the mythology. I like that that's ambiguous.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a Cold War, he's a pilot from the Cold War.
Yeah,
and
he's kind of immortal.
He gets absorbed into the Speed Force after he gets his super speed powers, and then he's like, I'm the only one that should have super speed powers. And this whole cult is like, you are the real god,
Yeah, you
Savitar.
are Savitar. And but Wally's like, yeah, but psych, I'm the fastest man alive. Savitar's like, I'm gonna kill you. Linda learned Savitar's backstory because she's really smart and good at her job, and she's able to pass along vital information to Wally during this time. Wally and Jesse went to Savitar's castle, because he lives in a castle.
Yes, he does.
Where Jesse fought Lady Savitar, who I think the name is pretty self-explanatory, and the Flash fought Savitar himself, because you couldn't have a 2-on-1, that wouldn't be fair. Jesse manages to free the Speed Force from this weird box that Savitar has inside of it. Yay! Which gives everybody their powers back. So Jay, Max Mercury, Johnny Quick, and Impulse got all of their powers back, and they ran over to the castle and caught up with Wally and Jesse and proceeded to battle Savitar's army, which is made up of all these cult followers that Jason talked about. And then Wally threw Savitar into the Speed Force, and then he got sucked in himself and disappeared.
Well, he didn't quite throw him in there, but he tricked Savitar into following him into the Speed Force.
Right, he doesn't like put him over his shoulder and throw him into the Speed Force.
And the Speed Force is very fickle, and they deal with this in TV show. The Speed Force has like one person that they like, and at this time it's Wally. And since he brings Savitar in there, like Savitar gets absorbed by it.
Yes. Then we enter a storyline called Race Against Time.
Love it.
Exclamation point. And it's basically Wally bouncing around the Speed Force a lot and going to different centuries and having a bunch of adventures there, including the 64th century. Remember when we talked about that? That's where Rip Hunter lives. And the mid-30th century, where he meets Dawn and Dawn Allen, Dawn like the male spelling and Dawn like the female spelling. The 27th century, where he meets John Fox, who's another
the Flash
speedster.
of the future.
Yeah. Before he has to figure out how to go back home. It's a really, really fun story.
Now, Dawn and Dawn Allen are the parents of Impulse.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And they are, he is the child of?
Who is he?
Dawn Allen, male Dawn Allen.
Yeah, he's the child of Barry.
Yeah. I was gonna say they're both the children of Barry, but I was like, no, they're definitely not. They're matching names a little much though. During a brush with the Black Flash, don't worry, he's a bad guy Flash, who had apparently claimed the life of Linda, Wally is able to save her by entering the Speed Force again. He chases her down, he brings her back. This is kind of the trend of Wally from here on out. He goes into the Speed Force, either sacrifices himself or saves someone else, and comes back out of the Speed Force. Because the Speed Force is a really cool idea.
Yes,
and it was so cool when it came down.
And the Black Flash is the embodiment of death, the death element of the Speed Force. It's the idea of the Speed Force that comes out and takes speedsters. But you're right. The big crux of the Mark Waid run is that Barry, once he accesses the Speed Force, feels it at all times. Wally, excuse me. Getting the TV show and the comic book mixed up as well. Wally feels it at at all times, and it's like he feels like it's drawing him to the light.
Yeah, and it's very hard for him to resist,
and he can't escape it. You know, because it feels like heaven to him.
Yeah. It's everything a speedster could want. But he saved Linda. They're living back together. So he proposes to her and they were married shortly after. But she then disappears off the face of the earth and not even Wally can remember her. Nobody remembers her. This is kind of the opposite of what keeps happening on the TV shows where Barry keeps resetting the timeline and then Iris can't remember him anymore. Linda's disappearance was caused by a mysterious man who had a deep hatred for the Flash. He abducted her and he kept her imprisoned within Limbo. Yeah, that place that we all love. And this character is later revealed to be Kadabra.
Oh.
And if you are current...
Abracadabra.
Yes, if you are current in the Titans series, you'll notice that this storyline is kind of being aped right now. And this story taught Wally to accept that he would not be able to prevent Linda's death forever, even if he kept saving her from the Speed Force. Kadabra faked his defeat at their hands and seemingly discorporated Wally and Linda's essences, sending them through countless alternate dimensions until they found their way to their home dimension thanks to Bart. Yay, Bart! He gets to be useful.
Yay, Bart.
I love Bart. Wally and Linda finally made their way back to Keystone City, but Linda was still forgotten in everybody else's minds. So Wally decides that what he's going to do is impersonate the Reverse Flash in order to get Kadabra to cast his spell in reverse on Linda to make her return to everyone's consciousnesses and keep her safe. And after this, Linda and Wally finally are able to actually get married and fill out the paperwork and everything.
That's good.
And it's a really sweet issue. Nightwing is the best man. It's really cute.
Makes sense.
It does. Maybe Kyle's there too. On their honeymoon, the couple is attacked by Cobra and Lady Flash because they can't have nice things, but they easily defeat them. They're going through their wedding presents one day and they receive a bomb as part of their wedding presents.
Of course.
So Wally investigates and learns that someone has been targeting members of the JLA. And so, of course...
We should also point out, too, that the reason why he gets a bomb is that at this time, Wally West's public identity was open.
It was.
Everybody knew Wally West was the Flash.
Yes, so he gets a bomb.
Yeah.
After learning this information that the JLA is going to be facing upcoming attacks, Flash saves Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and finally Aquaman from all of these attacks, which is really, really cool.
Cool.
He then learns that an enemy is threatening him and his allies. Oh, the enemy that has been threatening him and his allies is none other than the Turtle, slowest man alive, an evidently obvious enemy of the Flash.
Yeah.
Then we come to a storyline called Time Runs Out. See, we got a lot of time and running jokes going on. And what I want to bring up about this is that Wally learns that he has fathered a child with an old girlfriend, taking a note from Oliver Queen's book, and that the child is named Josh, and he is forced to decide whether or not he's going to take responsibility for raising this child. When Josh's mother dies, Wally does decide to reveal himself to their son. But about 5 seconds after this, the Flash meets the newest member of the Central City Police Department, whose name is Hunter Zolomon, which should sound familiar to Flash fans. And Linda gives birth to their own twin children, Iris and Jay West, and we pretty much never deal with Josh ever again. So too bad, so sad for that kid.
Wow, I didn't know about that. Cool.
Yeah. And I actually like that they call him Jay West, like Jay Garrick. I think that's really, really cute. Wally West decides... I should probably retire from being the Flash because he wants to be a good father and raise his family. But then Infinite Crisis happens.
Yeah.
Jason, really quick, what is Infinite Crisis?
We find out that there are some surviving members of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, including a Superman, a Superboy Prime, and an Alexander Luthor, and a Lois Lane. And they're like, hey, we want to bring the multiverse back. So they attack the DC Universe, and guess what? They bring the multiverse back. And some characters die, including Superboy.
Yes.
And Wally West is greatly affected by this event, which I assume you're going to talk about right now.
I would assume that as well. Kid Flash, who is Bart Allen, Barry, Max, and Johnny are able...
And really quickly before we get that, sorry, I want to just remind you, at this point, now that we've jumped all the Infinite Crisis, we want to state that there was a storyline by Jeff Johns that Wally West's public identity was put back to bed again by the Spectre,
right.
And now nobody knows who the Flash is.
Right, okay.
All right, so now to Infinite Crisis, what's going on there?
So all these speedsters are able to temporarily subdue Superboy Prime, who's obviously a big part of this event, by sending him into the Speed Force. Ta-da!
Hey.
And Wally, once he's gotten his family all safe, followed them into what later turned out to be an alternate Earth. He's like, I guess I'm a speedster again for like the next... however long this event lasts. He and the other speedsters, along with Linda and the twins, were sent to the home of another Jay Garrick who was operating as the Flash on the Earth that they go to. They decide to absorb the Speed Force into Bart and send him to battle Superboy Prime and become the Flash full time. Content with passing the Flash mantle on to Bart, Wally and Linda decided to raise their family on an alien world known as Savoth. Savoth, where the residents were longtime friends of the Flashes. However, shortly after their arrival, the twins begin to age very, very rapidly, and the Savothians, who were advanced scholars of velocibiology, at first did not agree to help the West with what was happening to the twins, but they finally relented and agreed to train Linda to deal with the children's rapid aging.
Now, let's point out real quick here, just to make it a little bit simpler here, that in Infinite Crisis, Wally West runs into the Speed Force with Bart to get rid of Superboy Prime. And in the Speed Force, he meets Barry, he meets Jay, and to the outside world, they all disappear. Only Bart comes back.
Yes.
And Bart's older.
Right.
And so it seems like Wally West is dead.
Okay, yeah, but on the other side, this is what's happening.
He's not dead. I just wanted to make that clear.
That's a good
The DC universe right now thinks Wally West is dead.
He's not dead. So Wally, along with Linda and their children, are eventually brought back to Earth by 7 members of the Legion of Superheroes. Yay!
It's called the Lightning Saga.
Yes, using lightning rod devices. Look at that. When Wally came back, he indirectly took away Bart's portion of the Speed Force, which is a bummer. And with the return of Wally West, the Speed Force also returned as he mainlined it and was practically one with it. So Bart was the fastest Flash. Wally came back. Now Wally's the fastest Flash again.
And in this weird storyline as well, the moment that Wally West comes back, that's when the Rogues were able to kill Bart Allen.
Yeah.
But Bart Allen comes back to life later on. Don't worry about it. Comic books.
It's very sad, though. I think Bart has a horrible death.
Yeah.
He was then invited to join the newly reformed Justice League of America, which I'm allowed to say.
Now you can call it that.
He moved back to Keystone City because where else are you going to go? Since he and Linda were afraid that their twins could at any time age rapidly, possibly even into old age and death, they decided to let Iris and Jay, who had developed their own super speed-related abilities, to live their lives to the fullest and help their father fighting crime. Wally later found out that the cause of his children's rapid aging was not because of the Speed Force, like they'd previously believed, but because of the Black Flash. Remember him?
Yep.
He then absorbed the Speed Force fragments from his children and defeated the Black Flash, thus causing Jay and Iris to revert to their actual age. Yay! He then goes on to rejoin the Titans for like a minute to take down their old villain Trigon, who is the father of Raven. Then we get to Flash Rebirth.
Yep. And the reason why we get to Flash Rebirth so fast is because when the Flash comes back in this story that's called The Wild West, actually written by Mark Waid, sadly, it's not a great storyline with him and his kids.
It's not, and there is stuff that goes on, but literally the next important thing that happens is Flash Rebirth.
Yes.
So that's where we're going.
No, I know. And I just wanted to explain really quickly because that
it is a time jump.
The Wild West storyline, I hope, is not in your recommended reading.
It is not.
There's a reason why.
Can you real quick, what is Flash Rebirth? Flash
Rebirth is where Barry Allen is now in the modern DC universe. He was brought back to life in the event called Final Crisis, where he's run through time, and you learn that he's been brought back to life by his old enemy Eobard Thawne.
That's right. So Barry Allen comes back to life. He's doing hero stuff. It's really great. Wally and Jay team up with Barry to save Orion's life. Orion is the New Gods character.
Okay.
But they fail and Orion dies, so it's a big bummer. They also...
And that's in Final Crisis.
Oh, yeah, but this is leading up to Flash Rebirth. They also free Iris from her house, which has been corrupted by anti-life, and she's trapped inside of it. The Flashes team up and run off to try and take down Darkseid, who's taken over the world. They save Superman from the followers' Omega beams, and when they managed to get to Darkseid, they vibrated through him, causing the Black Racer to crash into him, severely wounding the evil god. So they effectively defeat Darkseid, which is not an unimpressive feat. Barry and Wally reunited with the rest of their friends and family. Yay! Superman assembles Wally along with both generations of the Titans, because by now we are well into the second generation of the Titans, to reveal that Bart Allen and Superboy had been resurrected in the future and brought back to the present, and everyone is super happy about this.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Both the superhero community and the public learn of Barry and Bart's return, assembling parades and celebrations for all the Flashes. Yay! Then Blackest Night happens. What's Blackest Night?
Well, real quick before we get to Blackest Night, Wally basically he's still called the Flash at this point.
It's weird.
And he gets a cool looking costume that actually looks like John Wesley Shipp's costume from the 90s TV show. And Barry, becomes full-time Flash. But Wally's still around and he's still the Flash.
Yeah, but he's like part-time Flash.
Yes.
So Blackest Night.
So Blackest Night is where you find out that there are these Black Lanterns, which are basically these zombies of the DC universe. They have black rings, and they can resurrect anybody that's been dead.
Yeah. So Wally races across the globe with Barry and Bart to pass to every hero around the world Barry's message about the rise of the Black Lantern Corps and their universal invasion, and like, hey, you should look out for this. It's really, really scary. He later arrives in Coast City with Bart, the Justice League, and the Teen Titans, who aid Barry in taking a stand against Necron, the black personification of death and the Lord of the Black Lanterns, and that's his biggest contribution to that event. Then the New 52 happens, where the DC Universe rebooted, and everyone gets a new costume. And the weird thing about the New 52 is that the redheaded Caucasian version of Wally West, adult Wally West that we knew, appears to have never existed.
Exactly.
But it's important to note that in several previous adventures, when he had entered the Speed Force and thought that maybe he was going to die, he had assured other characters that he could always find his way back home as long as he could find Linda.
His lightning rod.
That's right. So you got to know that. But during the New 52, a new African-American Wally West was introduced in the Flash Annual number 3, sort of tying into the fact that we're having an African-American Wally West on TV.
Exactly. It was that character, that Wally West was created specifically because of Keenan Lonsdale, who plays Wally West on the TV show.
Yes, and he's originally portrayed as originally the New 52 version was portrayed as the classic character, and he is the biracial son of Rudy West. This is Wally, and it's all retconned in DC Rebirth number 1, and it's very silly, but he's Iris's nephew. He looks up to the Flash. He has speed powers. That's all you need to know.
It's basically the exact same.
Yes.
Yeah.
The existence of the original Wally West is hinted at in the final issue of Titans Hunt, in which various original Teen Titans remember their bond to each other, but realize they are still forgetting an important final member of the team, and as they look out on the ocean as lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get up to DC Rebirth, and a big part of DC Rebirth is original adult red-haired Wally West coming back to life, but that is currently what is ongoing. And
and real quick, but let's just talk about that. In that one shot, he's not an adult. He is, like, I would say in his early 20s. He's a late teen.
I mean, he's an adult.
Well, but
18 is an adult.
But he's not the adult that he was.
He's not like, yes.
Because I would say at the end, but right before the New 52, Wally's probably 30.
At least, yeah.
This Wally that shows up is maybe 20.
20, 21, yeah.
Yeah, if that.
But we're not getting Teen Titans Wally West.
Totally,
we're not getting baby Wally West.
Yeah. So this, in DC Rebirth number 1, this 20-year-old in his original Kid Flash costume shows up to Barry. Barry's like, I don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. And he's like, but I've been shunted out to the universe. And then Barry touches him, and now the original Wally West is now in the DC Rebirth universe.
Yes. But that's all we're going to say about it.
Yes, but there's 2 Wally Wests out there. There's only been like 10 issues of The Flash. Go out there and enjoy them.
Don't worry about it. That's your Geek History lesson on Wally West.
Woo, I feel tired. I feel like I ran.
Heck, me too.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Good job.
Thank you.
Let's move into the next section of the podcast, the recommended reading, where Ashley's going to give you 3 picks if you want to read some Wally West Flash stories. And you can go to geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading, and we have the full list of all the recommended reading that we've ever done for this entire podcast.
Yes, we do.
Right there, and easy widgets that you can buy them so that you can read them for yourself.
So the first thing that I am going to recommend is The Flash Born to Run. This is volume 1. This is Mark Waid's first volume on The Flash. It is it is what launches in my opinion, the best run of The Flash of any of the Flashes. And the great thing about this volume is that it includes a year 1 origin story with all of the Kid Flash stuff that you need to catch you up on who this character is. So if you've never read Flash before, this is a super great jumping on point to this character.
Yeah, I believe that's also called, isn't it the one that's called The Flash Book 1 by Mark Waid? Or
Yeah. But the storyline is called Born to Run. And then the second one I'm going to recommend is The Flash Wonderful, which is Jeff Johns' first volume, which is another really highly regarded storyline in Flash history. Mm-hmm. They're printing, I think all of those are still being printed.
And I think those are collected as well in the Flash by Jeff Johns book 1.
I know you can definitely get this first one. And then I am going to recommend that you pick up Flash Rebirth, which is sort of the ongoing story of what's happening with all these characters. And Wally's a really important part of that. And that's going to be all my recommended reading for Wally West.
And now let's move on into discussion.
Yes. So, Jason, we have already established that you think Wally West is the greatest potential Flash, correct?
Yep. 100%.
So, Wally's a lot of the times defined by the fact that he's the first character to tap into the Speed Force. That's a really big defining part of his speedster legacy.
Yep.
So, I want to know, other than that, what do you think is Wally's greatest accomplishment as the Flash?
What is his greatest accomplishment of the Flash?
Mm-hmm.
Traveling faster than the speed of light.
Well, but that's because he can tap into the Speed Force.
Yeah, I know, but nobody had ever had no Flash had traveled faster than the speed of light
That's true.
At that point. And that was like this uncrossable barrier. It's interesting because I think that I don't know if Wally has a greatest accomplishment, but can you because I would pose the same question to you. Name me Barry Allen's greatest accomplishment besides dying in Crisis of Infinite Earths.
Oh, right, exactly. I don't think he has one.
Exactly. So like it's kind of tough. Like, and if you were to ask me that same question about Superman, I would be like, I don't know, stopping Doomsday. It's really tough, especially in serialized storytelling, to give that one specific event. But I would say that Wally's greatest story, whatever you want to call it, is that he is the kid sidekick who was terrible. There are stories about how he was terrible and how he used this weird chip on his shoulder about never living up to the potential of his uncle and became the greatest hero ever because of it.
Do you think Wally West is the greatest legacy hero?
No, because I believe that's Dick Grayson. Although Wally West, see, here's the thing. I might have changed my answer if Wally West was actually the Flash right now.
Interesting.
But
just because he's been in the suit longer?
But because he's been regulated, I don't know.
Interesting.
Like I don't know if I can give him that because they can't decide what they want to do with him now.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if he is Flash, 100%, I think, he is the great legacy.
It's interesting because him and Dick Grayson are two characters who both ascended to their mentors' titles and then had to revert back into a previous identity. Yeah.
The interesting thing, though, is that the downside is that Dick regressed into an identity that wasn't related to Batman. Like, he created the Nightwing identity.
Yes, he did.
That's his costume.
As opposed to
that's
Kid
his thing.
Flash.
And as opposed to going right back to Kid Flash.
Right. And I know in the current continuity, Barry has a scene where he's just like, no, you're Flash. But it makes a weird branding. It makes it difficult to discuss the characters when they're all of the same name.
The branding's very interesting, and especially because you want to call Wally West Flash now, especially since this is the Wally that had that career.
Exactly. As opposed to the African-American one who was never the Flash.
Was never Flash, so he should be Kid Flash. I have an idea right now, and I'm going to suggest it to you.
Okay.
The Wally West that is in DC Rebirth, I like his new costume designed by Brett Booth.
I really like it.
I think it's amazing. I love that costume. I know a lot of people are going to come after me for this, and I don't care. I don't think he should be called the Flash. I think they should give Wally West the name Impulse.
10 out of 10. Love it. I think Impulse is a great name for a speedster, too.
I think it's a great name for a speedster, too, and that way we get to have the Impulse legacy, and Impulse does have a legacy. He had a solo series in the
great solo series.
Yes, in the modern DC universe.
Cool. 10 out of 10. I would love that.
Yeah.
Great. Why don't we move on from discussion?
And the next section of our podcast is the teaching tweet, where Ashley, in less than 140 characters, is going to tell you all about Wally West.
Wally West is the best Flash, and then a bunch of little lightning emoticons until I run out of characters.
Cool.
I mean, that's all there is to say. Like, Wally West is the greatest Flash.
And that is all there is to say about Wally West. So thank you all for listening to this Geek History lesson. Don't forget you can go to Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes, and you can download this podcast. Don't forget to rate and review us over on iTunes. And Ashley, if they want to suggest a lesson like Wally West in the future, where can they do that?
They can do that at geekhistorylesson.com and facebook.com/geekhistorylesson. There's a bunch of different ways to contact us in both places.
And don't forget, we have our Patreon exclusive podcast over at patreon.com/Jawiin, Geek History Lesson Extra, that you can only listen to over there. What can they listen to this week, Ashley?
They can listen to us throw down about some speedsters, which one we think are the best, which ones we think are the fastest, which ones we think have the coolest costumes.
Cool. All right. I'm Jason Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And Professor Ashley, would you please close out this extra fast episode of Geek History Lesson?
Class is dismissed.